A strong Atma Nirbhar Bharat should be built on 5 pillars, not just 2 pillars. And what are those 5 pillars? I'd explained them in my C.D. Deshmukh memorial lecture that I gave in 1998 in India International Center, and that was titled as Economics of Knowledge. And those 5 pillars I will like to repeat because they are very relevant today. What are they? First is buy, second is make, the third is buy to make better, the next one is make to buy better, and the fifth one is make it together. These are the 5 strong pillars. Now let me explain that. For example, buy. I remember the UNESCO Director General, Federico Mayer, I was in a meeting where he said knowledge flows from west to east and wisdom flows from east to west. Okay? And I remember in a Q&A session, I said, sir, knowledge flows, that's okay, but usable knowledge does not flow very easily from west to east. Usable knowledge which can create wealth, which can create competitiveness, which can create strategic positioning, that does not flow. So let me give you, I'm going to talk a lot from my book of life, by the way. The books that you see behind me in the bookshelf are not written by me, but my book of life, I'll tell you my own experience. For example, alpha olefin. I remember I was on the IPCL board and we required alpha olefin. Why? Because we wanted to make alpha olefin sulfonates. Why? Because they are more biodegradable in compared to LAB, linear alkyl benzene. Now, there is nothing special about clothes washing, nothing strategic, but we did not get the technology. Acrylic acid we wanted. Why? They are used as superabsorbents, the polyacrylic acid saponified for sanitary napkins and baby diapers. We didn't get those. We talked about for 40 years we couldn't get. Just now Reliance has managed to get it. And you know the 5G story, for example, and I was very proud to hear Mukesh Ambani saying that we'll have our own 5G technology. So, ladies and gentlemen, buying just because you have dollars does not mean anything. The technology, even similar technologies, are very closely guarded. Number one, and the conditions can be very different. Second option is make in India. Now, make in India, yes, the government launched, and we have to give it a new shape. Make in India does not mean just assembled in India. It has to be invented in India, designed in India, and then manufactured in India. And if you don't do that, the penalties are severe if you just are an assembler. I was just speaking to Sanjay in the morning and I just mentioned an example, so I don't mind repeating it. Take mobiles, for example. India, the Micromax and Carbonan, etc., 2015, they had 45% share. In 4 years, it came down from 45 to 7%. And who ate our lunch? The Chinese. In 2015, they were just 9%. They went up to 68%. Vivo, Oppo, and OnePlus, and so on and so forth. Why did that happen? Why did we come down in our own country? And why did the Chinese go up in our own country? Because India stuck to trading business, assembling SDQs and so on and so forth, etc. Whereas China was doing continuous innovation, creating customization and looking at the new customer needs and so on and so forth. So the first point I want to make is that Make in India has to be invented in India, designed in India, and make in India. Otherwise, we'll be vulnerable. And of course, there are make in India, there are lots of impediments, as we know. The Prime Minister himself has referred to them: land, labor, law, logistics, etc. I was just reading a paper last week written by Gautam Chikarmane, and he gave me statistics that I did not know. Like, for example, the compliances and the filings. For small companies with less than 500 employees, 23 licenses or registrations, 60 laws, 750 compliances, and 120 filings a year. That is for small. Medium, up to 5,000, the corresponding numbers are 98, 135, 5,500, and 530. That means 3 filings per day. And if you look at large companies, 10,000 plus, 163, 210, 9,500, and 940 are the numbers. That means 5 filings per day. And this has to change as a matter of fact in a big way. So the first option, the buy, the make. The third one is buy to make better. What does it mean? Buy to make better means if you see, for example, transistor, the patents were that of US. They were not Japan. But Sony got those patents, acquired those patents, and built transistors, which are the best in the world. And they became the leader. So that was buying to make better, buying a technology and then make it better. If you see India today, for example, COVID, we are looking at so many alternatives, and one of them that is being talked about is for stopping cytokine storm by Biocon. But that molecule, if you see, itolizumab, it was not Biocons. They acquired it from Latin America, developed it for 2013 for psoriasis, and then now they are repurposing it. So it was buying to make better for the current condition. If you look at Geo, you must have heard his speech in the AGM on the other day when he talked about developments in AR, VR, mixed reality, and so on and so forth. And there were some splendid demonstrations. It is not developed by Reliance. They actually leaned on a startup, Tesseract, Kshitij Marwa, which was a small workhouse in Mumbai. So it was buying and then sort of making it better. And startups are going to be major access points for talent and technology. Okay, so we have talked about buying technology, but then there is an issue of buying components. Like for example, I heard Rajiv Bajaj say on the other day that I export 15,000 crore worth two-wheelers, but I buy components from China, 600 myself and 400 crore from the vendors who supply. So around 1,000 crore, and it critically depends on that. So therefore, it's not just technology that we buy, but also components that we buy to make it better. And we have this very heavy dependence on China, much talked about. If you look at pharma, for example, we are major manufacturers of generic drugs. We are suppliers of affordable drugs, high quality around the world. But we are very critically dependent upon China. The APIs, the active pharmaceutical ingredients, 68% of them come from China. Furniture, 57% is a component. Electronics, 45%. Manufactured capital goods, 32%. And if you see the foreign value added, if we as a total percentage, China components contribute to 34%. They were 10%, by the way, 9 years ago. They are 34%, one third of it. So I think the point that I'm trying to make essentially is that you cannot say suddenly China less. That means zero China. I mean, imagine if we say from tomorrow we don't import APIs at all. Our drug and pharma industry will be in trouble because they are so heavily dependent. So it has to be a strategy which is less China, less and less China, and finally no China. There is a wonderful report that has come out today on the RI study, Research and Information study, which actually shows that in the very first year, 16% of sensitive goods at same price we can acquire from other countries. And they also show that China is not competitive in 85%, 84% of our imports. So I think the point I'm trying to make is that when we are talking about buying to make better, the over-dependence, etc., we have to have what is called as a strategic patience. That is not the word that I have coined. It is coined by Dr. Vijay Kelkar. And we have to have a strategy, so as to say. We can't just say boycott China and so on, but a grand strategy to become a sort of China. So that is the third. The fourth is buying, making to buy better. You know, the same alpha olefin example that I gave, where we went to Idemitsu in Japan, they wouldn't give us technology. Chevron wouldn't give us technology. Shell would not give us technology. Why? Because they did not look at us as bottomless pit of demand. They looked at us as potential competitors. Okay. So I remember I was on the board and I said, let's do it ourselves, research and development. And I remember, and Sanjay, you know Dr. Sivaram, the director of NCL, he was there in IPCL, and we developed a fantastic process for creating alpha olefin. And we were going up to pilot plant and then build a semi-commercial plant. And some finance guys came in the way and we could not. And I remember I was traveling with a competitor and he said, we're watching you very closely. Had you gone up to pilot plant, we would have given you the technology. because then you would have posed a threat to us. That's what I mean. Making to buy better. Okay. Now, if we have brilliant example of that in supercomputer, for example, in late 80s, for example, Cray will not give us the supercomputer. But in 90s, they come running themselves. They said we'll give. What changed? What changed was that I remember I was a member of Science Advisory Committee to the Prime Minister in Rajiv Gandhi's time, and he asked us, what are we good at? And Professor Narasimha said, we are good at this. And then what do we do with it? And then we say, we can build parallel processing architecture-based supercomputers. And $10 million were given, 3 years were given. Dr. Vijay Bhatkar, Pune, we created CDAC, Center for Development of Advanced Computation. He created Param 8000 in 1991, and it was exported to Russia in 1992. And I remember the Washington Post headline, "Angry India does it." Having been angered, India developed its own. And so they have always said, why are we not permanently angry? Anyway, that's a different matter. But when we did Param 10,000 in 1998, which was 100 gigaflops, then all the restriction regimes vanished, and Craig came and said, we offer. So Dr. Kalam always used to tell me, Mashelkar, he says, strength respects strength. You can extend your hand, but whether somebody will hold your hand, shake your hand, will depend upon the strength of your hand. So that's what I'm saying, making to buy better. The last one is, of course, making it together, and that is obvious, the public-private partnerships, etc. Vaccines are much in news, and as you know, for example, the rotavirus vaccine was done by 16 partners coming together, Bharat Biotech actually manufacturing. I remember when I was the DG of CSR, we created a fantastic public-private partnership, NIMITLI, New Millennium Indian Technology Leadership Initiative. Why did I say leadership? Because we have to be leaders and not followers. But when you lead and not copying anybody, you are taking risk and you are bound to fail. So I said, let the government take the risk. All right. And we created a program where the private sector will get money at 0% interest to be returned only if they are successful. And public institutions who partner will get a loan. Okay. And by the time I left, I remember in 2006, we had more than 100 private sector companies, 250 institutes working together. Let me just give you one example. For example, bioinformatics was a big word at that time. And the Acrylic, the software, was $500,000. Now, small biotech companies couldn't afford. So I remember going to TCS Vice President Vidyasagar, and I'm a 10x guy. I said 10 times better, 10 times cheaper. We should make it. And he took up the challenge. Why did I go to him? Because he knew how to make a product. But they did not have any knowledge of life science. So I lined up 19 laboratories, okay, like Center for Cellular Molecular Biology and so on. They worked together. We put $5 million, and within 18 months, they came out with BioSuite, meeting that 10x criteria. And I remember this was sort of an incredible public-private partnership. We had created something which would not have been possible with either one of them. So I think these kind of grand challenges and moving is something very important, and that's what Sanjay we were talking about in the morning. Now, the Defense Minister yesterday has talked about the Prime Minister's 5 pillars as far as Atma Nirbhar Bharat. They are economy, infrastructure, systems, demography, and demand. Absolutely perfect. And the 5 pillars that I'm talking about are, of course, for technology and innovation. Okay, they have to supplement sort of each other. Buy to make better, make to buy better, and make it together.